Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel that takes on all kinds of issues related to understanding narcissism, narcissistic relationships, and the people who are impacted by these relationships. It's my hope that this content will help you make sense of a very difficult and toxic situation so you can start to heal from it. So today we're going to talk about one of the most difficult things for someone who has been in a relationship with a narcissist to get over: their intense feelings of grief of missing the person they were in a relationship with. Now, before I get into this, if you're new here, please subscribe. And if you like the content, please support it because it does help. So let's talk about this grief of missing your narcissist. So this is such an important topic. You know, one of the hardest things I think for people to get over after any kind of separation or divorce is the grief of missing someone. That's hard. But then when you layer on top of it the fact that you have lost yourself in this relationship, you no longer have your own identity. Your confidence is shot. You don't feel good about yourself, man. You question your strengths, your abilities, and your judgment. You missed all of those things. In addition to that, many times you may be dealing with the aftermath of gaslighting. And because of the cognitive dissonance and the trauma bonding, you are second guessing yourself. Like, did that really happen? Did I really say that? Do I really feel that way? Or you may even be doubting yourself, wondering if you're making too big a deal out of what happened in the relationship. So you may feel isolated. You may be questioning yourself. You might have family members and friends who are saying, oh my gosh, just move on. Just get over it. Just get back in the dating scene. It'll be fine. You'll find someone else. And the grief is real. And so what happens is this leads to a lot of people ruminating, researching, obsessing, stalking, still hoping that the relationship will get back together. Why? Because without that other person, you don't feel whole. You don't feel like you have your identity, your self-esteem, your sense of self-worth. All of those things are tied up in the relationship. That is how deep the manipulation goes. The narcissist manipulates you down to your very core, strips away your sense of identity, and makes you so dependent on them that without them, you are in tatters. Now, many people ask me, well, why do they do this? Why do they destroy people this much? Well, unfortunately, many narcissists do this as part of their overall strategy to control and dominate the people in their lives. They know that the more that they can break you down, the more vulnerable you are. The more vulnerable you are, the easier it is for them to take advantage of you. The more vulnerable you are, the less likely you are to set boundaries with them. The less likely you are to be able to stand up to them. And the more likely you are to continue to give them attention, validation, and admiration that they crave. The problem is, when we lose ourselves, it is not easy to find ourselves again. It can take time. It can take a lot of work. It can mean engaging in some serious self-reflection and insight. It means repairing damaged relationships, setting boundaries with current relationships, and going to therapy. Therapy is a particularly helpful place to work this stuff through because the therapist will help you see the manipulation and recognize that none of this is your fault. You may still miss your narcissist. You may still grieve the loss of the relationship. That is normal. It's okay. But you don't have to make excuses for them or let them continue to harm you. Part of getting over the grief of losing a narcissist involves recognizing that they never really cared about you as much as you cared about them. That it was all a game to them. And it was a game to get supply from you, to get validation from you, to get attention from you. That it wasn't about love, it was about them. You may still miss the person that you thought you were in a relationship with. And that is a form of grief. Grief is not only associated with death, it's associated with losses. This was a significant loss. And remember, if you were with a malignant narcissist, a psychopath, this was also a traumatic loss, a traumatic event. So yes, you should expect to grieve that loss. If you are grieving the loss of your spouse, there is such a thing as a complicated grief, which just means that the grief lasts a long time, right? The problem with the grief over a narcissist is that it can keep you stuck and keep you ruminating. So while you can't rush the grieving process, you do have to try to get to a point where you can move forward. If you stay stuck in the grief, then the narcissist wins because they want to keep you in that place. They want to keep you hurting. It makes them feel powerful. I had one client who would call me up and she would tell me, I just miss him. I miss him so much. I miss the sex. I miss our life. I miss this and that. And I would say, yeah, I bet you do. And then I would remind her of the bad stuff. And every time I would remind her of the bad stuff, she would say, but I miss him. And at a certain point, I finally said to her, listen, you need to accept that you are in a transitional period of your life. Of course, you're going to miss him. You miss the life you had. But this is a transitional period. You're adjusting to a new reality. You're grieving the loss of that relationship. It's sad. Accept that it's painful and accept that it's a period that you have to transition through. Now, grief doesn't last forever. If you're missing your narcissist and you're having trouble moving on, I strongly encourage you to get into therapy because therapy will help you get through that. In addition to that, remember that being in a relationship with a narcissist often leaves us feeling confused, conflicted, traumatized, gaslighted, self-doubting, anxious, afraid, ashamed, disappointed, angry, resentful. Those are all emotions that are perfectly understandable after what you have been through. Healing from a narcissistic relationship requires that you take the time to sit with those emotions, to acknowledge them, to allow yourself to feel them, to express them in a healthy way, ideally in a therapeutic setting. Healing also means that you have to focus on rebuilding yourself, your confidence, your sense of self, your sense of who you are, your identity. Take small steps toward creating new experiences for yourself. Focus on building new relationships or repairing old ones. Get yourself out there. Go out and start living your life. It will get better, but it takes time. The danger of missing your narcissist and staying stuck in that grief is that it can leave you open to further manipulation, like the Hoovers, for example. Narcissistic relationships almost always end badly, which is why it is so crucial to get out while you can. The narcissist is never going to change. The relationship is never going to get better. And the sooner you can accept that reality, the sooner you can start to move on. Another dangerous place that you can get stuck is blaming yourself. Some people get stuck in the rumination of why did this happen to me? What was wrong with me? Why didn't I see it coming? I stayed too long. Why didn't I leave sooner? Stop it. Enough of that. Accepting the reality of the situation doesn't mean that you have to forgive the narcissist. It just means that you have to accept the situation for what it is and then shift your focus to creating a better future for yourself. It's hard to get over missing someone when you've lost yourself in the relationship. And a lot of times people put up with this kind of abuse because they are worried about what people might say or think. If they knew about the relationship and the abuse that occurred in it, you may have been ashamed. You may have felt like there was something wrong with you. People don't generally get this kind of stuff. And that's why it's so important to find other survivors of narcissistic abuse, other people who understand what you've been through. You can connect with other survivors online or in groups. There are times in life where you just have to pick yourself up and move on. And that is what you have to do here. Yes, you may still have feelings for your ex, but that doesn't mean that you have to get back with them. Feelings come and go. Right now you are hurting. That is normal. But it's also possible that these feelings will change over time. These feelings of loss and grief may fade, but they may be replaced with anger and resentment. What I always tell survivors of narcissistic abuse is that the chronic stress that comes with this kind of abuse can manifest itself physically as well as emotionally and psychologically. So in addition to the emotional toll that this takes on you, it can affect your immune system, your digestion, your sleep, your energy level, your memory, your concentration, your ability to learn new things, your motivation. Basically, the stress and trauma of the narcissistic abuse can affect your ability to function well in your daily life. And all of that is why getting out of these relationships is so crucial. And I know that it's hard because so much of who you are and what you felt and what you believed and what you understood about yourself is tied up in this relationship. You don't feel like you have your identity. You don't feel like you have your self-esteem. And that's because the narcissist took it. And when they took it, they left you depleted, vacuous, and empty. Thanks again.